Hello and welcome back to the NRLW Weekly Podcast, all thanks to Lite N Easy and Harvey Norman. My name is Marlee Silva. I'm just an NRLW superfan, and as always, I'm joined by a legend of the game, the one and only Ruan Sims. On the show today, a look at how the new teams fared over the very first round of the NRLW for 2025. We've got some brand new segments as well, including the Lite N Easy Learning segment that will hear some details about how to be a better player from Ru. I'm really excited about that. We also get to your listener questions and give our tips and preview for round 2. But right now, Ruan Sims, how good was week 1 of NRLW for 2025?
Hey, Marlee. Yeah, it was fantastic. But you also neglected to mention that we've got a special segment just for you as well. The Sideline Eye segment this week, which I'm actually really keen to listen to and find out what caught your eye this week. But I thought it was a really great opening round for NRLW. We saw some incredible performances across all of the games, and we had a lot of surprises and upsets, which is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You don't want to have everything go according to plan, and we've seen that in the NRL so far this year, and NRLW has kicked off in the same vein, and I couldn't be more excited.
Oh, absolutely. Well, speaking about those first couple of games we saw, we're going to be doing an NRLW Weekly Medal this year. So last year and the year before, we've always asked for what your best, your team of the round and your player of the round has been. But this time, those that you're, shouting out for having such a great round will accumulate points, and someone will get a medal at the end. I wonder what the medal would look like. I'm looking at a producer now. How are you going to source this medal? But Ru, who is your team of the round and your player of the round?
Well, look, my team of the round probably won't come as any kind of surprise. The Bulldogs. I thought they were wonderful to watch.
Yeah.
Considering it was the very first time in the NRLW, I thought they played with incredible composure. They were fantastic. I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, so I won't go too much in depth. But yeah, the Bulldogs for me were fantastic standouts in round 1.
Yeah, very, very happy. Okay, I will bite my tongue for now because we're going to talk about the Dogs in a little bit. And your player of the round?
Well, again, unsurprisingly, it's Teka.
Yeah.
Angelina Teakaranga Katoa. She was just huge. Everything she did was quality. She had a massive stint in that game. I thought she was fantastic. She ran for over 200 metres, I think, something like that. Crazy. And then we had her on our NRLW wrap the next day. So she rocked up and we had a good chat with her then. And I think she's a very impressive young woman. She's very young. So front rowers don't usually mature until their mid to late 20s.
Right.
And she's already playing this style of football, which is exciting and terrifying if you're the opposition. Exciting if you're like us and just love watching great footy.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was immense.
I really love listening to her on an NRLW wrap because, a lot of the time these young girls who've only been in the game for a hot minute haven't had much of a chance to show who they are. And she seems like has so much maturity for someone who is so young. So I really loved hearing from her there. And with that, let's get into it, right?
Please.
Into the headlines from the week. The new kids on the block. I mean, there was someone who asked us last week, with expansion, are we worried about talent being diluted? And I think the answer to that is absolutely not. The Bulldogs. Look at them. Look at what they've done. I think that very quietly, it was very emotional for me. And I had my sister with me, 2 young girls. I'll keep calling them.
You grew up.
I wanted to be a Bulldog.
Space. You wanted to, and you're finally seeing that as an avenue for young girls to aspire to. I can imagine why that's so emotional.
It's so special. Yeah. And I think especially, knowing that Taylor Preston grew up a Bulldog and now she's there as a co-captain. Holly Wheeler grew up as a Bulldog. And even their coach, gosh, he seems so impressive. Young guy, super passionate. Like the whole environment, it was so joyous. And, forget the fact that they were also brilliant with the ball. The inspiration that they provide for a lot of those, young girls who right now are growing up loving the Dogs. They know they can do that.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, how was your dad when this game was coming up? Because he's a legend in those colours for that club. He must have been so proud that his club turned out the way they did, especially because he has daughters.
Yeah.
And then to see them provide that avenue and that path, he must have been just so chuffed.
Yeah, I mean, he is just like the love that he has for the Bulldogs as a family club, as, you know, a club that is such a big part of our identity, and provided so much for us in the first place. It's, and especially how they're going this year, he's been very, very invested. And in the lead up to this one, you know, I have been very public about the fact that Dad wasn't always a big fan of the NRLW, was a little bit resistant to it. Me and my sister weren't allowed to play footy growing up for that reason, but he has just completely turned a new leaf and loves it, and honestly watches it more than he watches the men's games as soon as it's on, because he loves the style of footy.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that's not an unusual story.
It's really common.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because they then start judging it on its own merits.
Yes.
And then their opinions are turned around because of the merit and the way the game is played and the passion that the girls play with and the level of skill that they play with. I think it draws in and captures an audience that were previously quite resistant to it. And that's the beauty of our game. It has that ability to do that. And that's just, people are going to think that this is, and I sent you a clip about Alex Ohanian discussing women's sport this morning at stupid o'clock because I was up. But what it triggered in my mind was, you know, there hasn't been a lot of, you know, investment in women's sport, professional sport over the years. But the reason that we're seeing it spike so quickly is because the talent has always been there.
Yeah.
But now the business sense has kicked in and there is money coming in. There are companies investing in women's sport that never previously had an avenue to invest in these kinds of sports.
Yeah.
And that's why we're seeing it grow so quickly, which is really exciting.
It's such an exciting time. And it's a great privilege to be able to watch it so closely, I think, from our perspective.
Sorry, I went a bit off topic
No, because
Bulldogs.
I think it's totally fair that we're constantly talking about the bigger picture here, because with women's sport, because we're still in this like growth and evolution phase, it's not, you know, too long a bow to pull, right? In saying that what we see happening out on the field and the growth of the game and the talent and the like has a really positive impact on just the mindset of the average footy fan of like what they believe there are the capabilities of women, and that growing respect for women and girls, I think, is the most important thing. And I find myself talking about
challenging set norms.
Correct.
Does that.
Yes.
And being open to change makes you grow, and just it encourages a real colour in life. And, you know, that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
But I have definitely gone off topic.
That's okay.
But yeah, back to the Bulldogs. This is where we started with it. I loved it. And I know that you're going to ask me about the technical side of the Bulldogs, the way they played. But to be honest, it was a mindset that they played with.
Yeah, right.
They had some great technical moves. They absolutely did. You can see the structures they were playing with are very sound. But what I loved was, and I think I spoke about this previously, was I actually had a chat to some of the staff members after the game. And I just asked, you know, what's it been like? You know, talk to me about the feel around the club. And I just said, you know, like they're pushing up, they're supporting well, they're constantly engaged, they're always putting themselves in a position to make a difference. I said, what's that mindset? And a couple of them said, and a couple of the girls also said, it's about fighting for scraps. They're just fighting for scrap. Every little scrap, they're there. Yeah. And I think if I tell you that, and now you think back to the way that they played, that's exactly how they played. Yeah. They fought for every little scrap. If there was a ball on the ground, they were diving on it. You know, I think Taylor Preston put in this great sort of midfield kick, and the way she kicked it, it was spinning backwards, so that when it hit the deck, so when she kicked it, it was spinning towards her in the air but travelling away from her. So then when it hits the deck, it bounces back towards where your support runners are coming from, and they scored off it. Yeah. Now, they were just putting themselves in the frame. Yeah. And that's the beauty of the way that they played, you know, because every club has great systems. Every club has technical acuity. They have all of that. Yeah. But it then comes down to the mindset, like what are you willing to do to get the job done? And I think that scraps mind frame. And this is what the Titans had a couple of years ago, the junkyard dog.
Yeah, well, forget the
Mind
junkyard
frame?
dog. This is
Yeah.
the Bulldog.
So this is the Bulldog. They're just fighting for scraps. They're fighting for every little thing
Yeah.
that comes their way. And I love that. I love that attitude.
Before we move on to the Warriors, I do want to shout out one player because we both know it's been a really long journey to see her get back onto the field after injury, Andy Robinson.
Yes.
And didn't she make a statement coming back on the field?
I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah.
Number one, it was great to see her just back out playing football after that ACL. And then she had some follow-up issues with that knee as well. And it was a really uncomfortable sort of 18 months for her. And then obviously not having her contract renewed at the Sharks is a tough one. The signing at the Bulldogs for her, especially after the way she played on the weekend, you got to tip your hat to them. Like that's really, really, really smart signing. And she is such a classical style of player. Like she has this ability, and I think you'll sort of see it when she gets close to the line. She's running at pace, and it's a fair clip, but then she can kick it up another notch. Already at seemingly top speed, she then kicks it up another top speed. So her tempo runs are incredible. And she's really, really hard to stop. And she's only slight. She's not a big fullback. She's not tall fullback, but she's really quite powerful. So, I was really, really happy for her. I thought she was fantastic. Fantastic for the Dogs. And she was another one. She was fighting for scraps. She was putting herself in a position to take those kicks on the full, starting her team off on the front foot. She just did everything right. Positioning was really good defensively. Yeah, I thought it was a great outing. And usually we only sort of have seen her play centre.
Yeah.
Or wing.
Yeah.
Like previous to this, but fullback definitely suits her.
Certainly looks good. Okay, let's move on to the Warriors. I could talk about the Bulldogs all
know.
day, but that's all right. We have the whole season to do that. So the Warriors, look, they lost to the Roosters. That was always going to be a tough task, but there were glimpses of what they can be and also some, incredibly experienced players in there who kind of led from the front, your Laisha Albert Jones and the like. Like, I think it was promising signs.
Yeah, I agree. It was always going to be a test for them. And I think even Ronnie Griffiths spoke about this prior to the game, saying it's great to actually put yourself up against the best in the competition to start off because you can see where they're at. And it was only 30-6.
Yes.
So they did go with them, but they just couldn't maintain it. And that will come. Yeah. That will come with a bit more time. And I just think Michaela Brake on that wing, such a great aerial target for them. However, we spoke about this during the call, and I'd love for them to come up with a few more plays to bring her in. Yeah. Obviously, I did see them try a few things, like where they do this corners play, where the half and the second row, or the half and the second row, or the half and the centre will drift up and out towards the sideline, and then they bring her back underneath. And her coming against the grain on that angle is really good. But the half has to really get out hard to engage, force the inside defender to chase really hard on her, and then engage that next defender. And then that's where the space will actually open up for Brake coming back against her underneath her. So I think they just need to work on the execution of that because the idea of it is right. And I really like that. I like that play for someone like her because she was so hard to handle. Yeah. She was so hard. She's so strong.
You can tell.
And you can just tell she was chomping at it, but she just wanted more footy. So I'd love to see them do a few more things like that to bring her into the play a little sooner. But also another big standout for me was Marlee and Ru. Yeah. In at half at the 5'8". Great. And you could tell that she's got that chat about her too. She's really vocal. She tells them what she wants. She was the second highest meter runner for the Warriors as a half. Yeah. So she was very good with ball in hand, and she's got a nice kick on her too. So she was one that really stood out for me too.
So Marlee and Ru, I am familiar with. I don't know if you saw the documentary that the Black Ferns did in the lead up to their World Cup at home a couple of years ago. She was quite young at that time. She ended up missing out on selection, but she was this like rugby union prodigy. She had a couple of bad head knocks, and then it kind of forced, and she's been a bit of a star in the Super Rugby. So another cross code kind of player. And so I don't know why it took me until I'm like sitting on the sideline actually looking at her and I was like, oh, that's her, right? Yeah. So it's really cool again, you know, you speak about Michaela. This is the same situation of these girls coming from, you know, the other codes, other environments and just bringing something really interesting. And I love that she's had this opportunity to kind of, you know, the sort of prodigy expectation of her in the union space was kind of, I think in a lot of ways taken out from underneath her, and now she can come in and be a part of, you know, the first year back for the Warriors in the NRLW, and she's still so young and she's bringing something really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably the best thing for her. She can just create her own space.
Yeah.
And she's got that genuine natural talent.
Yes.
Yeah, which I don't like to rely on natural talent because, you know, there's a lot more that goes into it than just being naturally talented. You have to work at. So she's obviously got the talent, but she continues to work at it to be in the position that she's in, which I love. So yeah, I want to see more. I want to see more out of Marlee Ep02. I also thought that Kitai was really good through the middle, really impressive front rower, very mobile, moved well, had genuine impact as well. I'm just having a look here. The edge back rowers were pretty good too, Baker and Atai. So. Yeah, I think they've definitely got ability in this side, and it's just now a bit more continuity, playing a few more games together, getting all that squared away, and yeah, they'll start firing.
And they've got their first home game this weekend.
I know,
which I wish I could be there.
How good would it be?
Please put me on the plane to Auckland. That would be elite. You're listening to the NRLW Weekly Podcast with Marlee Silva and Ruan Sims. Thanks to Lite N Easy and Harvey Norman. The wait is over. Ninja Slushy, the professional frozen drinks maker that every home needs, is available now at Harvey Norman. Best prices guaranteed. Now it's time for a brand new segment, Lite N Easy Learning. From footy players to fans like you, Lite N Easy helps everyone to eat well, feel great and save time for the things that matter most. It's over to you, Ruan. Class is in session.
Yes, so by Lite N Easy Learning this week, I'm going to talk about dummy half runs. So we have a really great crop of young dummy halves coming through at the moment, and ones who are a little bit older but are still very intelligent. Yeah, they might lose speed, but they get faster between the ears. So that's the joys of getting a little bit older. And the reason I wanted to highlight dummy half running this week is because anyone who's listening at home, young footy players or aspiring footy players, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. You have to know what your indicators are, your reasons for running. You don't just run for the sake of it because you haven't had a run. You've got to have a look at what the defence is giving you, and then you react accordingly. So rugby league is a lot about reaction. You know, it's about bringing the signal in, getting all your information, and then what your output or your action is off the back of it. And now the best ones, the ones who do this so brilliantly, Emma Manzelmann. Yeah. You know, when she scored that try in the Cowboys game, what she does is she's got the speed. She can identify the space at the A defenders in the line. So that's the defenders back, 10 metres back from the ruck, or to play the ball.
Right.
They're too wide. They're way too wide for where they are on the field. So she's already looked up and seen that space. Then her next cue is she's looking at the markers. Both markers were slow to their feet and they were crowding the ruck, which means they were up in on the play the ball. So when you're really close to the ruck as a marker, you don't have much time to react to what's happening with the attack, because you're just kind of going, oh, sugar, she's going, oh. And you can kind of see this is what they do, because this is later in the game as well. Yeah. So this is another key consideration. Is it late in the game? What's happening? So what she does, she identifies that the markers are crowding the ruck, the A defenders are really wide, and she's got incredible foot speed. And what she does, she picks it up and she scoots out to her right, and then she runs hard back on this angle towards the post, and she beats absolutely everybody to under the post. So that's what she's looking at. So if you're a dummy half late in the game, they're kind of your cues, especially near the line or in that 25, 30 metre zone. That's your cues. But generally what you're looking at as a dummy half, if you've got one marker or no marker, you're picking up and you're running. You are running, and your support runners should be with you to be able to create something off the back of it. That's what generates ruck speed through the middle. Right. Or even if you get a late offload and you see that nobody's around the ruck, you'll see a dummy half, like Brayley does this really well. Yep. He'll just grab it and he scoots out and he's back in. Harry Grant does the same thing, scoots out, back and around in. So that's what's really important, but your support runners have to be there for that to come up. So either no marker, one marker, or no markers, you're pretty much going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's no one there. If you've got people who are slow off the tackle and they're not in position, you're going.
Can I ask a question? Your A defenders, are they the defenders when, say, you're at dummy half, you look up, the two who are sort of closest back in the line, right?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, I can visualize this now.
So you think of it as a triangle.
Yeah.
So when you're playing rugby league, when you're a ball player or a ball runner, you're looking for triangles because there is a disconnect in there. And if that triangle is too wide, so that two base parts are too wide, which consider that your A defenders.
Yeah.
If they're too wide and the
There's your
markers
hole.
are too close, the hole is in behind the ruck. Yeah. So these are the things that you're kind of looking for. So you're looking for those cues as a dummy half. They're the cues you're looking at to go and run.
And kids, you just got that for free from New South Wales Blues women's assistant coach, superstar legend of the game, Ruan Sims. So that was Lite N Easy Learning. Thanks, Ru.
You're very, very welcome.
I feel like I just learnt so much. I think I could play number 9 now.
Yeah, you get the ball skills. We might do a training session.
You do not know that I have the ball skills, Ru. I do not.
Keely said you did.
Oh, wow. That's very kind of her.
Yeah.
We'll
But
go
you
with
know
that.
what? Now it's time for my little exciting segment that I want to hear from you.
Okay.
Our intrepid sideline eye. Marlee, what caught your eye this week?
Oh, what caught my eye? Well, that is the benefit of being on the sideline. Your eyes are key. They call you a sideline eye. There are a couple of quirky things that I saw this week. The first being, and unfortunately it's not the first time the Dragons have been in this situation, just a little bit of a typo on NRLW debutant Indy Bostock's jersey for her first ever game in the Red V. Little bit of a misspelling when it came to the day of her debut. So you have there Indy Bostock debuting NRLW round 1 Saturday is what it's meant to say because we were in Canberra on Saturday, but it said Stour Day.
Stour Day.
Stauarday. And you know what?
That's
Maybe
a bad typo.
I might have just...
It's not an unusual word. I mean, it's a day of the week.
Do you know what it makes
Who's
me
doing
think?
the proofreading?
I think there's a chat GPT involved or something.
Oh,
like it's an
yeah.
AI misstep because that is like human error wise, it's not a lot of words in the text embroidered on your jersey. It's just like, oh, it's just a little bit. How does that happen? And again, I might have just, with my sideline eye blinked past that. If the Dragons hadn't had this similar situation happen with Jack Bird and the Dargans.
Yeah.
Remember how memeified that was?
Yeah.
To be fair, I think the uniform shop or whatever that did it actually went out and started selling shirts that said "Go the Dargans." Like, so they really lent into the. Yeah. So now they might be sending ones out that say the Stour Day, a happy Stour Day.
Happy Stour Day.
But you know what? Didn't stop Indy Bostock from having an incredible day.
Oh, didn't she have a blinder?
Oh, so good.
Almost 3 tries.
Yeah, she had some great cellos too.
Yeah,
honouring her brother with the cooking channel.
Yeah,
that was a big.
Well, look, I hope that they take the jersey back and embroider it
for the framing, right?
Yeah.
Or do you kind of lean into that and it's a funny thing too? I don't know. Hey, another thing that caught my eye just quickly. It is Nadok week. This is, I call it Black Christmas in July. This is the time of the year that when the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community reflect on our strength, our survival, celebrate what's happening and celebrate some of the figures in our community who are doing incredible things. I encourage all people who live on the continent of Australia to do exactly the same thing because it's something for all of us to be proud of. We have so many incredible Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women in the NRLW. I saw you sharing this statistic. That's one of my favourites through that within the NRLW playing group, 50% of the players.
No, not just NRLW, NRL as well. Yeah, so NRLW is actually higher.
Yes.
NRL is over 50%, 51%, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that must have caught up because it used to be that the NRLW was at that. But this statistic meaning that over half of the people who play professional women's and men's rugby league are Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, Pacifica or Māori. So we have this really strong, rich culture that's at the foundation of our game. First Nations people coming together, celebrating themselves. That's why we have Indigenous round, All Stars, all of those sorts of things. But what caught my eye was at the Roosters game on Sunday, Olivia Koenig, obviously reigning Dally M medalist, proud Aboriginal and Māori woman. I think she was at the forefront of doing this.
Yes, she led this one.
Yeah, quite a few of the Roosters girls had ribbons in their hair that were the colours of the Aboriginal flag. So not just the Indigenous girls, but quite a few of the other girls. That's allyship, that's showing celebration. To mark the first day of Nadok Week, I believe the ribbons came from a Aboriginal-owned business called Kaiko. That's KYKOE. They do a lot of hair ribbons, a lot of really cool stuff. And I just love that because it's a great way of showing like connectedness. And I think that being able to share and celebrate each other's cultures is really good for team culture.
Yeah, it's great for team culture. It's great for club culture. And you know what? To be fair, it is great for society.
Yes.
It is. Culture is the colour of life. It is just so important.
Yes.
And it does. It is hugely important. And obviously because I have very proud Australian Fijian heritage.
Yes.
So the Pacific is very important to me.
Yeah.
And then obviously being able to be an ally for my Indigenous brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles is really important.
Yeah.
And, and I love that. I think that's a really, really beautiful. And Kaiko.
Yeah.
I might be hitting Kaiko up for some ribbons.
Absolutely.
Or some scrunchies, because scrunchies are a big thing too.
Yeah, of course. And, in a couple of, not that far away, I think about a month's time, we'll have Indigenous round. For the first time, NRLW are all included club-wide and it's over 2 weeks. So everyone gets a home game. So
that's awesome.
We'll be talking a lot about that when we get there.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time to get into your questions. Remember, if you have questions for us during the week, make sure slide into our DMs. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about on the NRLW Weekly podcast. This first one comes from Martin, and Martin says, "Hi, ladies. With some big scores and some close ones, what's your overall impression of the quality of rugby league played across round one? Did any specific aspects of the game impress you?"
Yes. I thought it was pretty impressive across the board. I mean, we've discussed in previous years how much the women's kicking game has come along, and I think that's a really important part of it. And it's obviously just the kick selection during the game is really, really good. It's starting to really pick up as well, which is important. But for me, it's just that skill execution, particularly around dummy half. And I know I've spoken about dummy half already, which is a reason I wanted to highlight it. I think our dummy halves are just getting really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Like they're adding extra strings to their bow. I mean, Keely Davis has been working really hard on adding a kick to her game. She's now another kick threat out of dummy half, and that will start engaging a lot more with other dummy halves. Like pretty much everyone has got that running game down, and their pass selection out of dummy half is really great. That kick is going to be the next thing that rolls in through there, which is really great. I loved that. And then also probably just want to touch on the Dragons, their ruck defence.
Yeah.
Just the way they controlled their ruck was really good. And obviously Alex Volkanovski's been doing a lot of work with them, and he put some of his own money into their program to help them. And he goes down there and he coaches them. And I thought the way that they played against the Raiders, it showed like all of those small skills, just having that trained more continuously in an off season pretty much rose to the fore. So yeah, they were probably the few things that really impressed me with round one. And it's only going to get better because it's round one.
Exactly.
So
100%.
yeah, Martin, good question.
Now I believe you received a question.
I got this one from Jesse Godfrey, and he asks, the Tegan Flash Berry and Indy Ferrari Bostock combination plus Margot Vella on that wing was electrifying against the Raiders. Do you think it will trouble a lot of teams this year and get success? In a nutshell, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Speed beats a lot of things. And that edge, I thought Margot Vella was quite physical as well, which I loved. Obviously, she played last year, so she's had a little bit of time under her belt as well.
Did she have an injury last year, though? I think there's a while where she, at the back end of the season, she was injured.
She's had some NRLW experience.
Yeah.
But for Indy Bostock to come in there like that and just hit the ground running, I mean, she was great, really, really good. And then Flash was amazing as always. She just ate up the meters.
Yeah,
and I think that is a really, really great combination on that edge. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how they progress over the next 10 weeks of this competition.
Another one of those ones that surprised us, which is fantastic. Final question from the listeners, and this one just broke your heart, didn't it, Ru? it's specifically to you as well. It's from Ava. Ru, as a former player, seeing an ACL tear in round one, this, of course, referring to what happened with Philomena Henesi from the Sharks. I mean, the question is, it must be heartbreaking. How does an early season-ending injury like that impact a team's morale and strategy?
Yeah, it is very difficult, especially as a middle.
Yeah.
Because you sort of lose that rotation. And she's, as we saw, she came on, provided
Big
heaps
impact.
of punch, scored a try.
Yeah.
Like, she had great impact. And I was more devastated for her personally because she had a really slow start to last year because of a hamstring injury.
Poor bugger.
So she was slow to get moving and then came in. I thought she was really good at the back end of that season. And then she worked really hard this off-season, then picked up a small niggling injury, got cleared of that literally the week of the game. God. And then, unfortunately, as we saw on Thursday night, did her ACL. And I think as a team, you're more worried about the individual first.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you just want to make sure that they're okay. What this does provide now, though, is an opportunity for Steph Faulkner, who will make her debut off the bench for the Sharks. So everyone is devastated for Minna because they want, well, we'd love to have her playing there the whole season.
Yeah.
But I know that she will still turn up to every training. She'll do all her rehab and she'll get herself ready for next season.
Yeah.
And she'll still be part of the squad and the team. And then we just adjust.
Yeah.
You just adjust because you can't foresee everything that goes wrong. But when it does, you've just got to pivot and adjust. And like I said, we're more worried to make sure that Minna is okay and that she's supported and that we can help her get better as quickly as possible.
Yeah, hate seeing that stuff.
I know.
It's unfortunately the worst part of our game is the injuries.
And obviously we did touch on this last year.
Yeah.
Women are 3 to 5 times more likely to do an ACL as a professional athlete just because of our biomechanics. Because of the way that we're built. Our hip to knee ratio, the Q angle is wider in women. So we are naturally 3 to 5 times more likely. And then obviously when you're in a specific part of your cycle, you're again even more likely. So it is one of those things. I know that there is a lot of research being done on this to see how we can prevent it.
Yeah.
Or just, how can we minimise that amount of ACL injuries. And we'll keep doing the work in that space. We'll keep finding ways to come up with good preventative measures and trainings to make sure it's okay. And like I spoke about last year, I think netball have this set of exercises that you must do as part of your warm-up. From under sixes all the way through to the diamonds. They have to have a certain number of these exercises as part of their warm-up and training drills. So, and I know that rugby league is very similar. Yeah. So, we'll keep doing more research and, try and get ahead in that space.
Okay, we just need that research to hurry up, please. All righty, let's get into the tips for this second round of the NRLW for 2025. First up, Thursday night at Campbelltown. It'll be nice and cold for me on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
The Tigers will host the Bulldogs.
Yes, this will be a pretty tough outing for the Tigers.
For sure.
I will say this, though. I thought Turnbull was quite exciting for me on the wing last week. I mean, her little duel she had going with Kerry Johnson was pretty awesome. Yeah, and I think I said this in the call. I'm not usually enamoured by the wingers. And I was just like, this is great. Like, I love watching these two go head to head. They were really great. So I thought her and Feifua, were great. I thought so. There are really positive signs there. I thought Lutu had some good kick options. Her defence was pretty damaging as well. And Saville coming off the bench was very good too. They were very strong in that first half against the Broncos. But the Bulldogs, it's going to be another tough task for the Tigers. Like I said, that first half last week against Broncos, they were very good and they just couldn't go with them in the second half. The Bulldogs are scrappy. Yeah. So the Bulldogs held on for 30 minutes against the Knights in that first half. Yeah. And it was that 5-minute period before halftime and the 5-minute period after halftime. They broke the spirit. Yep. And this is the thing, you can tell as a coach at that 30-minute mark, or even I think I was looking at it about the 27-minute mark and I was like, hang on, I don't think the Knights can hold on here. I think the Dogs are just they're just turning the screws. Yeah. And they did. And then they went on with it. And as we saw that final scoreline. So I think if they have Teka and Alexis Tuaniai eating up the meters the way they did, they're going to be very difficult to stop. And they also had this interesting rotation where Alexis started on the edge, which is what the Tigers did as well with Kezi Apps, start them on the edge. Then during their rotation, they'll bring on an edge back rower and push them to the middle. Yeah, so you kind of get a little bit more output out of them before you give them a break.
Yeah, right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then Alexis got pushed back to the edge and then so did Kezi. So you can kind of add an extra rotation almost.
Right.
It acts as an extra rotation without having to use one.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite good coaching from both coaches. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. But my money is on the Bulldogs.
Yeah, that'll be hard to beat. Then we get to Saturday. Again, it'll be nice and cold for me on the sideline down in Canberra. Two teams coming off a loss, and I think both teams were expected to win in that first round too. So it's Raiders and Sharks. They'll really be hungry.
Yeah, I agree. And
I
I
think
think
battle, I think.
it should be. I think from the Raiders' perspective, what concerned me was 48 missed tackles.
Yeah.
And a lot of those were through the middle third. So they're going to have to really step that up because the Sharks, when they were on song last week, was through the middle third.
Yeah.
It was rolling the ruck, quick play the balls, Quincy Dodd jumping out, Brooke Anderson making some space through there. So they're going to have to really tighten up their ruck defence, the Raiders. From the Sharks' perspective, they only completed at 72% last week.
I was going to say, there's a lot of errors.
Yeah, and a lot of the penalties that they gave away just released a lot of pressure on the Eels. So they're going to have to make sure that is very much tightened up. They can't allow that to happen this week because the Raiders, Sere Naitokatoka is back in the halves with Z, and Sere loves to run.
Yeah.
She will run, and she's built low to the ground like Shante Temera. So she will just scoot hard. And so they're going to have to be really aware of that, and they're going to have to make sure they're very clean with their work in that space. I'm going to tip that the Sharks will come away with the points travelling down to Canberra, but it is going to be a very, very tight run race. Yeah. And I think the Raiders, Grace Kemp was pretty good off the bench for the Raiders, but I think she was sort of a bit underutilised. I'd like to see her for a few more minutes. Yeah. Just because she was really hard to handle. Yeah. Really, really hard to handle when she came on. But, I also really liked Robin Zretti. Yeah. At fullback. Yeah, I've normally I've seen her at centre. Yeah. Or out on an edge. But I thought she was really good. And she's got a good kick. Yeah. A really good kick.
She was fired up too.
Yeah, and I think that's a weapon that they can use. But I think the Sharks will come away with the points.
The next game I feel like could be really – if you'd asked me last week, I might not have said this. But having seen what the Dragons have done, I'm really excited for this matchup. Dragons and Roosters.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good one. Now, for me, last week, the Roosters won 30-6. It was, a lot of points when you look at it 30-6. They only completed at 67% though.
And in that first half, it was so tight.
Yeah, and it was there was a lot of errors. There was a lot of penalties. So it was very stop-start, which doesn't suit the Roosters. No. The Roosters will strangle you because they have the ability just to play consistently. Yeah. So I think John Strange will be looking to make sure that they don't let them off the hook with errors and penalties and things like that, so they can just get into that faster paced grind, because that's where they're at their best, especially if they can get Olivia Kernick running through the middle the way she does and then tipping on and playing off the back. It draws a lot of that defence in. So, yeah, that'll be really interesting. Like I said before, I thought I was really impressed with the way the Dragons controlled their ruck. Yeah. Which will be necessary. Will be really, really important up against the Roosters. And obviously there's been a couple of changes, unfortunately, for Frez. Yeah. Oh, that elbow. And
it's fractured as well as dislocated, which is the worst.
And I felt for her because she had such a great Origin series. Yeah. You could just tell that she was pumped up, ready for a big NRLW. Yeah. So we're hoping that she, heals really quickly and can be back sooner than later. But that's a big loss. Yeah. But then also Taina Novindi is also out with
head injury.
So that is going to be a big loss. And then that also changes the rotation for the Roosters, because they had been using Jack Frez moved from the wing to front row. Yeah. I think China Pilata did it last year or the year before. It was the only other time I'd seen it done. And Frez is someone who's built pretty low to the ground, but she'll give anything a crack.
She's
so gutsy. Yeah. Which works. It works for the way they were using it. But so that will change. But Amber Hall comes back in. Yeah. the wrecking ball.
Yep.
So that is, and I think Millie Elliott calls her the cheat code,
She
which I
does.
quite like.
That's so good.
So she comes back into the lineup. Logan Fletcher gets her debut on the wing. And Mia Wood moves out to the other wing.
Yeah.
So that will we'll see how they turn out there. But I think for me, it'll be very much about making sure that they're completing. That's what I think they'll be looking to focus on. And then the Dragons, they want to continue rolling the ruck the way they did and just owning that ruck space.
Yeah.
Because Ray McGregor's kick was amazing.
Yeah.
Her kicking game was so good. And then obviously we spoke about that edge with all the speed that they've got. So yeah, but I am tipping that the Roosters will come away with this one in a very tight contest, though.
I'm tipping the Dragons.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm tipping them. I like it. I like the flair and the speed and the youth in that side. All right, Cowboys and Knights.
This will be a tough one.
Yeah.
This will be a really tough one to call. I mean, it's another home game for the Cowboys.
Yep.
Which is nice for them and nice for the Knights too.
Yeah.
Warmer weather up there. But again, both of these teams didn't complete at the level. So I talk about completion a lot because that to me says that you're holding onto the football and then you're actually sort of grinding out your pressure.
Yeah.
And you're actually forcing the opposition to make more tackles and make errors defensively, and then you're taking advantage of those. So that's why completion's important. And both in the 60s, 68 and 65.
Yeah.
So they're going to want to really make sure that they're hanging on to the football and not releasing the pressure that they're trying to build on their opposition. Thought Jakaya Whitfeld at the back was very good, but I loved the counter-attack off a midfield kick where Roach scooted down the outside and then she picked up Blackwell back on the inside. That's footy. That's playing what's in front of you.
Yep.
That's eyes up.
Yeah.
That's just playing what's in front of you, which I absolutely love that for the Cowboys. I thought they were fantastic. And the Knights will be stinging after that loss to the Bulldogs. And like I said, their completion is probably where they'll want to focus. That they will focus on a lot because then if they don't have that completion, it doesn't allow Southwell to come into the game as much as they need her because she's their controller and she's got that flair to be able to do that. I thought even though Yaz Clydesdale tried really, really hard, she, as always, worked so hard, and Bo Vete Welsh as well was really good in her first game for the club at fullback. I think that they'll come up with the win in Townsville, the Knights, and it'll just be through, I think, big change for the Knights having Liv Higgins back.
Yeah.
Will add another layer of stability and will make sure that their ruck isn't rolled the way it was against the Bulldogs. And defensively, she does so much work for them.
Yeah, she does.
So I think that it'll be the Knights up there.
Then first home game for the Warriors back in Auckland. They are coming up against the Eels. And the Eels looked great, all those young guns last week. But I think, home ground advantage-wise will be tough.
I know. And I thought the Eels were great. Rachel Pearson played a beautiful game of football.
Wasn't she so good?
And we speak about this all the time, and I touched on it before. Some of these older halves and older dummy halves might not have the pace of the younger ones, but they're quick between the ears. Yeah. And that's the way Rat played last week. Her kicking game was beautiful. Her short kicking game, she was always aiming for that post and coming up with a result off the back of it. And I think that was obviously Elsie Alberts had a really good platform too. Yes. And Chloe Jackson. I don't think we speak about Chloe Jackson enough. I really loved the way she turned out for them last week. She worked so hard and she was really exciting to watch. So that will be important. They had a good completion rate.
They did,
I think there was like close to 90 for the whole game. What does concern me, though, is that they missed 42 tackles. And the Warriors, the way the Warriors can play, especially, say, your Marlee Eppo, if she can, bring her forwards in, and then if Michaela Brake is coming in off the wing on those angled runs I was talking about earlier, they're going to have to really shore up their defensive system to make sure that they don't allow that to happen too often, because then they'll just be scrambling and they'll be backpedaling and they'll be cooked. But I'm going to tip the Warriors at home for their first game. And like I said, I really liked Michaela Brake. But Marlee Eppo really stood out to me. And it was off the back of a lot of good work from Kitai and Butler through the middle. And obviously Harata Butler she's been to a couple of different clubs. She's a bit of a journeyman, for want of a better term. And I think she has that ability just to provide a bit of punch and then come off for a breather.
Yeah.
And she might be one where I think Kitai could play longer minutes, but Butler you could do, a sort of 3 stints, which we've seen in a lot of other NRLW clubs.
Yep.
Where she might just be able to do 3 stints and provide some impact on those 3.
Okay, after we head across the ditch, we're coming back for another Queensland derby for the Titans. They will be hosting the Broncos. A tough task for the Titans, I think.
Yeah, this is a big ask.
Yeah.
Really, really big ask. I felt as though last week under the Cowboys' onslaught, the middle collapsed a little bit for the Titans. And, it's going to be it's going to be a big ask because I thought the Tigers took it to the Broncos last week.
Yeah.
But then we just saw the class of Upton and Broughton and Brigginshaw and Ferguson really rise. So that
listen
spine,
to those names, right?
Yeah, that spine is incredible. And then when Ferguson comes off, you put Destiny Brill on there, and then you put Lenarduzzi on there as well. And it just sort of they've got a lot of attack, and I think that's where they sort of ground the Tigers out last week. And to me, seeing Gail Broughton running freely, really good, great signs. And then off the back of that, also Mele Hufanga looks super fit and strong, man. And I know I could tell she was bristling that she only scored the 1 try and got held up twice before that. So she'll be looking for an absolute banger as well this weekend. And a huge loss for the Titans is Brittany Brayley-Nati. That is a big loss with that collarbone injury because she provides a lot of stability and she also has really good service out of dummy half. So that is going to be a big shuffle because then I think Fui's going to 9. Talia Fuimaono is going to 9.
Right.
So she's going to go into 9.
I don't know have we seen her at 9?
Yes, at Origin.
At Origin
level,
right.
Yes, we used her at 9 at Origin level.
Yeah.
So she has played there before and she's very good out of there because she's got a great reaction and she's got great foot speed. Yeah. So she's perfect to be able to fill that role. And that means that then Pilia Aira-Sambale will come off the bench and she'll start at 6 and then Lauren Brown will start at 7.
Okay.
So, it's a big loss with Brit.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how they go. I feel the Broncos may be too strong.
I think they're a massive threat this season.
Yeah, I think they'll be too strong.
Yes. Alrighty, well, that's round 2. You can watch every single game of NRLW live and free on 9 and 9 now. You don't want to miss a second of this. I'm not on any games on Sunday, I am excited to sit in my pajamas all day and just watch the Wars first home game and that second Queensland derby. It's going to be amazing. Highly recommend you do the same if you can't get to a game.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the NRLW Weekly Podcast. Thank you so much for sharing. I really loved learning from you in that Lite and Easy Learning segment, Ru. Can't wait to hear more about that. If people have suggestions.
Well, I was going to say, if our listeners at home have anything else that they'd like, because I can just pick whatever I want to talk about. However, if there's something that people really want to know about and I can help break it down, I'm more than happy to.
Definitely let us know. Let us know all of your questions. Make sure you're hitting subscribe wherever you're listening. Share this podcast with a budding NRLW fan, someone you want to bring into the fold, because we love having you here with us. And thanks to Lite N Easy and Harvey Norman for making the NRLW Weekly Podcast happen. We'll catch you next time.